I was not allowed to go outside of standard of care and talk to diabetics, even though I'm diagnosing bleeding in their eye. You've got diabetic retinopathy. And oh, by the way, did you know you can reverse this? Oh, no. My doctor told me I'll be diabetic the rest of my life. Oh, au contraire, if you care to listen. Yes, tell me. And eventually that can get you into trouble, unfortunately, just trying to, teach somebody and have them understand that there is another way.
Welcome to Meat Matters with Jenny Mitich, your go-to podcast for all things related to meat-based lifestyles and optimizing your metabolic health. Today, I sat down with Dr. Lisa Wiedeman, an optometric physician with over 30 plus years of experience. Dr. Wiedeman has been following a carnivore lifestyle since 2009, and she shares all of her experiences on her awesome YouTube channel, The Carnivore Doctor. In this interview, we talk about nutrition, of course, but we also touch on some other factors that you can dial in to optimize your metabolic health. We talk about her Carb-Sober Cruises, which my husband and I are going to be going on one of those cruises here in the fall, so it was really fun to hear more about them. And we dive into so much more, including food addiction, carb addiction, and a lot of information on sunlight optimization. She is a wealth of knowledge, and I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. If you enjoy this podcast, be sure to hit that subscribe button. By simply subscribing, we can get this important information out to more and more people. And if you'd like to take your support a step further, consider leaving us a 5-star review in whatever podcast app you're listening on. The more positive ratings we have, the more this podcast will be pushed out to the people that need to hear it. And with that, let's dive into this interview with the Carnivore Doctor, Dr. Lisa Wiedeman. I am here with Dr. Lisa Wiedeman. We actually met for the very first time in person at Carrie Mann's Healing Humanity Chicagoland meetup in January, I believe. And this is a really special interview for me because Dr. Lisa was actually one of the very first carnivore content creators that I watched when I started carnivore. Some of your recipe videos really helped me in the beginning, so this is kind of a treat for me. So Dr. Lisa Wiedeman, thank you so much for joining me today.
Wow, Jenny, that's a little fun fact I didn't know, and that's pretty exciting because my whole passion is really just to have an impact on other people's lives from my own experience, because the information just wasn't out there. I'm carnivore 16 years, since 2009, and it was such an oddity, such a, I say I was flying my freak flag. And now it's wonderful that it's becoming more and more of a, I don't want to say a household name, but we're getting pretty close to that. But just to be able to be just a voice of reason from a medical professional who doesn't take her own health lightly, and hopefully give people a little bit of a sense of confidence that this isn't really just a quick fix fad kind of crazy thing. This is something that we're really turning to for truly root cause healing, and just to feel that ancestrally, we as animals on Earth have really a basic way that we were living and should be living. And with our modern society, with ridiculous modern food, everything from even, bread, rice, pasta, oats, chips, crackers, chocolate, ice cream. I mean, none of this stuff is meat, seafood, and eggs. The more you know, the harder it is, because there's no perfection in this, but we want to feel like we are continually trying to do what's best for our health, because as you know, without our health, we don't have anything. So therein lies the drive and the passion.
Yeah, totally. I love that you're so passionate about all of this. We're going to dive into all of that stuff. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your background, where you went to medical school, and your practice.
Yeah, well, so I've been in practice for a little over 33 years now. I am 60, and the way I practice has changed so much. So, I did grad school in Philadelphia. I did an internship at the VA hospital here in New Jersey, where I live. And I went into practice, and it just blows my mind right now that we weren't taught root cause healing. We were not taught, if you've diagnosed dry eye and somebody's got scratchy, gritty, symptoms. And then we examine with the slit lamp biomicroscope and we pick up that there's what we call staining because we put a special dye and the dried off cells will fluoresce. And well, then here's some lubricant tears, or here's a medication this pharmaceutical company made for dry eye, and 32% of people, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, that's what we're supposed to do, right? It's an autoimmune issue most of the time, and you got to get to the root cause, and you can actually heal eye issues, dry eye, and so it became very difficult for me in practice because I was employed in a large ophthalmology practice, and similar to the story of some other medical professionals who got into a little hot water with trying to practice in a certain way, I was not allowed to go outside of standard of care and talk to diabetics, even though I'm diagnosing bleeding in their eye. You've got diabetic retinopathy. And oh, by the way, did you know you can reverse this? Oh, no, no. My doctor told me I'll be diabetic the rest of my life. Oh, au contraire, if you care to listen. Yes, tell me. And eventually that can get you into trouble, unfortunately, just trying to, teach somebody and have them understand that there is another way. I was not taught anything nutritionally going through school. And I look at now, I'm fortunate now, I've segued through my career of these 33 years that I am, I'll just say, semi-retired because I am more full-time into trying to do what I'm passionate, which I was just saying, it's so important that people understand that this animal-based way of eating is not going to cause a heart attack, and spending a lot of time out in the sun is not going to cause skin cancer. And everybody's like, what? What do you mean? And then I also tell people not to wear sunglasses. OMG. No eye doctor does that. Well, this one does. There are a very rare few that are understanding and picking up on it. But yeah, it's really tough. But where I'm at now, it's amazing. I've actually had some subscribers and followers of mine drive like 3 hours each way to come for an eye exam because I'm who they trust my opinion on and diagnosis and all. But it's really it's wonderful where I'm at now. I'm allowed to spend as much time as I want with patients, and I can do root cause teaching. And so that's really been my journey on the eye side of it. And I love the fact that people will write to me and they will say, I started carnivore because I had severe arthritis, but let me tell you what it did to my vision. My prescription's gotten better, and I was a glaucoma suspect and now I'm not. So now I've got information to be able to relay to people like, this is real, guys. This, your body, once you are eliminating toxins and you're eating a nutrient dense diet, your body wants to heal every organ system. It's not going to cure your psoriasis and your arthritis and just ignore your eyes, So it's really interesting. I get so many questions about floaters and cataracts and dry eye and macular degeneration. And I'm trying to keep up with it all and planning on making some real thorough videos so that people can really understand the truth behind not only eye disease, but really every disease in our body.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to ask you a question about your practice. How much of your practice is advising people on lifestyle changes now that you're working in a practice where you are allowed to speak on that? Like, how much of that is what you're doing now?
Well, it's beautiful because I don't have to bite my tongue anymore. I can rest my head on my pillow at night much more comfortably knowing I'm doing now all I can do, all I'm educated to do to help. And so I'm going to say a lot, and partly because, wow, it used to be macular degeneration used to be 1 in hundreds of thousands of people, right? Very, very rare, infrequent, 100 years ago. Now it's over 75, it's about 1 in 3 people. And over the age of 55, it's 1 in 11 people. It's crazy. And so I talk about eliminating seed oils. I talk about wearing blue blockers and not staring at a screen all day and not blaring your LED recessed lights in your home once the sun has set, and that these things are not natural and normal. And when you think about anything that we're doing, especially electromagnetic, and, forget about even going further down the rabbit hole, Jenny, with turning off the Wi-Fi at night and the Faraday cage and the grounding sheets. And oh my, it can get really overwhelming. And the best I can say, and I'll tell you just from my position right now, from research I've been doing, there's some really exciting science behind red light therapy and the benefit not only to our eyes, our skin. It does penetrate, it goes through our clothes, it can beneficially get to our bones in an amazing way. There's also, and I'm not talking for end stage eye disease, end stage macular degeneration, because that is, I'm going to say I hate to be the bearer of bad news on that, but too little too late sometimes on scarred conditions, but always have hope. And I know for me, certainly if I just found out about it and discovered that it can be helpful, heck, it's not that costly of an intervention to do. So yeah, so I end up, gosh, so much of my time in the exam room is spent really just discussing lifestyle between the light environment and the food. It's really important. This is really it's the nuts and bolts of getting ourselves to health. And a lot of people's biggest fears are going blind. We don't want to lose our vision. And so I say, you know what, there's definite steps you can take. Just like we don't want dementia, Alzheimer's, cancer, stroke, heart attack. I mean, all of it. We don't want any of it. And the beautiful thing is what we're doing for one organ system that maybe we're particularly concerned about because of a diagnosis is going to be beneficial to everything. So I don't know. It's really exciting because I feel that it empowers people instead of being a robot, as part of the sick care system. You actually take control of your life. You take control of your health. And it's not always easy. It takes some diligent effort to learn all these things, but hopefully by watching your channel, my channel, and people get even more curious and dig in deeper, and then watch Dr. Jack Kruse. He's really big on the quantum biology, and there's so much out there. Get excited about it because heck, what's the alternative? We keep doing what we're doing, and everybody thinks it's normal to get arthritis and normal to become diabetic. It's just so sad that it's so normalized. And that's the farthest from the truth. It's not normal at all. Hopefully we'll be hiking and biking and kayaking and, doing all sorts of really cool, fun things well into our 80s and 90s if we're fortunate enough to find this early enough.
I am happy to announce that my new book, Complete Carnivore, is now available for pre-order. Complete Carnivore is an in-depth guide to the carnivore diet along with 80+ carnivore recipes. And they're not just like cooking meat recipes. There's recipes for carnivores at any stage of their journey, and it definitely helps you mix it up a little bit if you're getting bored on the carnivore diet. When I was writing this book, I was really aiming to make this like the encyclopedia of the carnivore diet, and I am super excited for you to read it. Pre-sales are a huge deal for any first-time author, so if you'd like to show your support for me in any way, please consider pre-ordering this book. I will put the links in the show notes. Amazon and Barnes & Noble both have really good pre-order deals, where you will get the lowest price the book ever was from the time that you pre-order it to the time it's released. So let's say, for example, Amazon has a flash sale on my book, and you've already pre-ordered it, but then it goes down in price to like $20. Well, on release day, you will pay that $20 lowest price because you had already pre-ordered the book. Also, the book typically ships on release day, so you get it right away. Let's get this book onto every bookstore shelf in America and share the healing power of the carnivore diet with the world. Pre-order links are in the show notes, and I thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. How much do you think nutrition influences the chronic eye conditions that you see on a regular basis? How much do you think nutrition plays a part in that?
Yeah, that's a real interesting question, Jenny, because I'm going to tell you my answer to that has changed in the last year. And remember, I'm carnivore 16 years. So for most of my journey here, I'm like, all right, guys, want good eyes? No flour, no sugar, no grains, no seed oils, no processed food. Come on, get on board. We don't even want nuts. There's linoleic acid, a high amount of omega-6 in nuts. Oh, I thought nuts were healthy. No, well, here we go. And that's what I really was so adamant that, like, look, everything is about what you put in your mouth. But I'm going to say really, truly from what I have really dug into, and I'm talking about listening to some really high level, neurosurgeons, scientists, on this whole quantum biology thing. I think it's equally important. And I never thought I would say that. I always thought it's like you are what you eat, and but just getting the early morning sunrise sunlight into your eyes, that infrared, near infrared, far infrared light waves, so critically important for both sleep and health. And then you also want to, we spend 93% of our time indoors now, and that's so not natural. We're outdoor. We're supposed to come out of our cave and stretch and then go hunt and go play. And, and I really, from all that I'm learning about this, the effects of sunlight and how really critically important it is that we pay attention to that, meaning getting the natural light in that we need and blocking what we call, well, in the evening, ALAN, the word Allen, artificial lights at night. And and that actually helps optimize your sleep. And it also helps with anxiety and depression issues. And there's so much to it. I mean, we could do an entire, video just on that topic, but really in answer to your question, I'm going to say equally important as what goes in your mouth and what doesn't go in your mouth is the light that goes into your eye and that you're trying to block and have not go in your eye. I'm going to say equally important. Some out there will even propose that the whole light issue is more important than the food, but I hesitate on that one because I've been through such a long, lifelong history of disordered relationship with food, and I know, I hate to say it, but treated my body like a trash can because I didn't know better. I was addicted to the food, and it was something that now I look back at and think, wow, if I had only known what I know now when I was 20, my whole life would have been different. But you know what? Things happen the way they do, and it just ended up maybe giving me the passion to do what I do now and help. I always say, if I can help one person out of the hellhole I was in of secretive eating, hiding, hoarding, all that, hiding the wrappers, even eating stuff out of the trash can at times that I threw out because I said, okay, I can't have any more of that. I mean, horrible, horrible things that happen over a period of time when you don't realize that. I didn't realize that I was actually, there was actually an addiction to this stuff, and live and learn, right?
Yeah, completely. I'm glad that you brought that up because I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, you've been very public with your carnivore lifestyle. So can you touch on, like, how did you get started and why? What was that inflection point for you that you were like, I need to do carnivore?
Yeah, I guess I just went through a miserable long time. I'll say at least 30 years of knowing there was something wrong with me, I didn't talk about it because boy, is that humiliating and embarrassing to like have anybody think that you don't have control around food and that you binged on food. And so I just figured I could figure this out. I can find the answer. And, I started kind of getting into looking at Paleolithic eating and, Atkins, right? And I was told by like a friend, oh, my mom did really well reading this Schwarzbein principle book and she lost weight. And I was like, okay. And then got that book. And that was basically no sugar, no flour. And I was like, wow, there's something powerful about this. I had adult acne on my neck that cleared up with that. But when you talk about Paleolithic eating, it's basically eating whole foods. And if you were out on a savanna with a sharp stick, what would you be able to eat? Well, I figured dried apricots should be on that list. I'd probably find an apricot tree and there would be some dry ones, but Lisa could eat the whole bag of dried apricots, okay? Let's be real. And I have no sober behavior around that. And then of course, I would make myself like coconut and cocoa powder and maple syrup because maple comes from a tree, maple syrup. Of course, it was 100% pure. And I was mixing this stuff up and doing it with a cookie baller and put it in the freezer. Guess who wants to eat more? And it's calling her name. And now this really isn't working. And again, now I'm back in the same spot of just trying to not binge, trying to figure out what can I eat. So frustrating. And on the outside, I looked like my life was beautiful. I was married, had beautiful kids, I had a career. And inside, I was literally just crying. I was just so, I got despondent. I looked at it like it was worsening over time, like addictions do. And I felt like this was literally going to take me down because I'm not figuring it out. It's been 30 years of doing this, I think since I was about 14. And here I am at this point, 44. And it was right at that point when I just kept plugging away. My kids got them to bed and I'd go to the computer, thank God for the internet. And I came across a forum called Zeroing In on Health. And it was a group of people that had gotten kicked off of a low carb forum because they started their own zero carb thread in it. And the owner said, off you go. I've got my low carb peeps here. And so Charles Washington, I credit him for, he made a forum and this little group, it might've been 50, 60 people in there keeping their own journals. I don't even remember how these forums work. This is before Instagram and Facebook and so I'm in there and I'm reading and all these people were resolving themselves of health issues. Some it was just overweight, some it was diabetes, some it was depression, one was bipolar. Oh, wait, there's two women in here writing about their disordered eating and they're overcoming bulimia. And I was just mesmerized. And then I backed up and I said, oh, wait, these people are just eating meat and drinking water. Let's just swallow that one. I don't know. That was March 9th, 2009. And I started the next day. I said, doesn't sound healthy, but I'm going to keep looking into this as I do it because I was so hopeful with what I had been reading. And so it was a wonderful, really intelligent group of people. I have to say, we were reading Vilmar Stephenson and Not by Bread Alone and Fat of the Land and the works of Owsley the Bear Stanley. And really trying to understand because some of them in there said, I did Atkins inductions and the first 2 weeks of Atkins, evidently, I don't know, because I didn't really go that full route, but is basically carnivore. You're eating, bacon and eggs and butter. And then these people were in there writing, say, I don't understand why I have to climb the carb ladder because I just end up putting the weight back on. And so it was just a really fortunate, crossing of paths. And I just, then like 6 months later, Charles Washington was hosting a meetup in Philadelphia. I'm like, meetup? What the heck is that? And it was at a restaurant, and I'm like, dang, I'm going to drive an hour and 15 minutes to go meet internet people. Like back then, that was a little creepy.
It was weird back then.
It was very weird back then. But I felt so comfortable that I'd been journaling with these people and I kind of knew them. And I'm like, I'm safe. It's okay. So I kind of just snuck out and drove to Philly, and it was so magical. It was so empowering. And I literally at that point, I walked away from that and I said to myself, that's the first of many. This is awesome to connect with people who get it. And that kind of is where I think I got Dawn the meetup queen, because I've hosted or attended over 30 now. And it's so important, the connection with people, the connection with a group. I call it, you can call it a tribe, you can, whatever you want to call it. We as humans, our species, we like to feel like we belong, like, that we're loved and that nobody's rolling their eyes at us, and that we have a connection. And sometimes we don't get that when we have friends, family, and coworkers who think we're a little Lulu. And so it grew into what I have actually just 5 years ago. I decided to go sort of public on social media because I saw Sean Baker had been interviewed by Joe Rogan. And then people in the comment thing were like, oh, that's great, but it's not sustainable long term. And I'm like, wait a minute, let me raise my hand here. I've got something to tell you. And that's where I said, well, let me make a separate account and I'll call it Carnivore Doctor. And it just, in a beautiful, authentic way, just kind of grew to me being able to help and answer as many questions as I can and bring people into a group. And, I host Carb-Sober Cruises now, and I'm just so passionate to connect people in this because we don't have the support. Everybody still thinks that red meat, fatty red meat and butter, I don't want to say everybody thinks this, but the majority of the world still thinks that, okay? And that, everybody's on a statin and my doctor said I had to. Oh, my doctor said, do not go on carnivore. Your cholesterol's too high. I'm like, what if your cholesterol is supposed to be high? Because guess what? Every cell in your body needs it. Your body makes it. Why would your body be making something that is going to damage and kill you, right? Yes, you need to stop eating the crap food, but once you get that under control, now let's move on. So.
Yeah. I was going to ask you next about, how you got started on your sharing carnivore journey online, which you just touched on. But how has that experience been for you? Overwhelmingly positive, negative? Is it difficult to share all of this online?
It was initially, Jenny, I'm going to say, especially because my entire life was secretive, eating. And I didn't want anybody to know that I didn't have a good relationship with food. I couldn't control myself around food. You put me somewhere, I'm staring at, what's on the table. And, it was really difficult at first. And then once I did, and once I started getting feedback from people who said, you don't know how much you changed my life. You don't know how important it was for me to know that I'm not alone and there's other people out there suffering with this and that you've come through this. And it's a light at the end of the tunnel now for me. And, so yeah, I started doing some one-on-one private coaching, which I still do on a limited basis. But also in my membership group, I have it where people can ask questions at every meeting and we get kind of comfortable with our behaviors. And it's important because if we're not actively engaged in our recovery, we are not recovering. I hate to say that, but addictions love isolation, and it's so easy to go down that slippery slope into what I call the carb ditch. And so, yeah, initially very difficult. And now I look back and say, thank God I mustered up the courage to do it, because it's really changed my life. And, I'm really inspired by anyone who like has the courage to take this on, because, this whole carnivore thing is a little bit far off, in the mindset of people who have cupboards and pantries and refrigerators and freezers full of the stuff that they're addicted to. And to go in and clean that out, and then have the added issue if your spouse is not on board with it, it can be overwhelming. So that's why it's just so great for, I know so many of us out here have communities. You do, Kelly Hogan, me, Dr. Kiltz, Dr. Chafee has a 30-day challenge, Bella, wonderful groups. And it's like, not like any of us are in competition with anybody. It's like, come see where you feel you fit in. Come see where you feel that you're relating to, the way that information is given to you and how you're able to interact with others. Because this is what it's all about, is really staying connected, because it's a tough, lonely road. I mean, I think your story, you have your husband is, you kind of like, teammates in this thing, and, you can go through this together. But there's a lot of people out there whose spouse digs in the heels and say, you do what you want, but we're having pasta tonight,
Or actively sabotages them.
Exactly.
It's very, very complicated when you don't have a partner or a roommate, whoever you're living with. No, It's very hard. I love that you touch on community. It is so important. Wherever you can plug in, either an online community or going to these meetups. You really are the queen of meetups. Karen Miles, Karen.
Yeah.
She always credits you with inspiring her to do meetups in the Chicagoland area. And I went to my very first meetup because of her. She got a hold of me on Instagram. It's like, oh, you got to come. And I went. It was so much fun. And now I've gone to like 2 more. And, so yeah, you getting started online has influenced so many other people that it just trickles down. You never know how it's going to, affect other people. So yeah, that's been really cool. And you also do these Carb-Sober Cruises. You touched on it a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about how that came to be, what it is, and how people can get signed up for them?
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, it really came out of the meetup situation. I really, like I said, I get so excited about watching the connections of the people who are attending my meetups, but you get like 2, 3, 4 hours with these people, right? And you're connecting and they're sharing stuff. Well, on a cruise or an all-inclusive trip, it's like a meetup on steroids. You get to spend days and multiple meals and time outdoors, and so I thought, well, what the heck? This is important because, number one, there's a very big percentage of people, very, very big percentage, who give themselves permission and go off the rails on vacation. And I say, how is that any different than an alcoholic who is recovered and then it's New Year's Eve, so we're just going to have a little bottle or 2, right? It's people don't understand, because then people will say, yeah, and then it took me a month to try to get back on track, a year, I put back all this weight, and it's snowballs. So I thought, wow, what a cool way to say, let's do a Carb-Sober Cruise. Everybody's welcome. There's carb eaters. There's family and friends. It's fine. There's no policing of anything. What it is for me to bring together, and I approach the staff on the cruise ship, the food officers, and I say, look, none of us here want to eat seed oils, and it's really important to us. So what can you do? And they would come up to me with the menu for the next night. They'll say, okay, we're having braised lamb shank tomorrow. We're going to do your group without the gravy and, whatever. And then you'll have the option of also the salmon. We're going to do that in butter for you. And it was just so great that people could feel pretty comfortable. Not that I was able to control it all, because, we're in a big, 2,000-3,000 people on a ship. But it was it was really impactful, and actually it was great to see. We actually started making an impact on the ship. In the officers, they sought me out halfway through it and said, we want to make steak and eggs for your whole group for breakfast tomorrow and bring you all on a special private galley tour of the kitchen. I was like, wow, they really, I think they started understanding, because a lot of people were, talking about this. And so, yeah, I got really excited about hosting these cruises, because to me, there's nothing more fun than hanging out with like-minded meat eaters, because we get into really meaty conversations, and, you get to meet people from all walks of life and get so inspired by their own personal health journey. And yeah, it's just great. I have just 2 little meetings in the morning so that everybody can enjoy the day and the sun, but we have like little Q&A, and everybody gets like, they get a tote bag that says eat, meet, beach, repeat, Carb-Sober Cruise. And it's a lot of fun. And that's what I just want this to be about, is just to gather together people who have really health as their, ultimate goal, and how much we can learn from each other, and learn just by the comfort of just being around like-minded people like that is just kind of indescribable. So yeah, if you, wouldn't mind, I'll give you the link, and that has the upcoming cruises. There's 2 in September out of New York City, and that's an adults only one. And after Hack Your Health, for anybody who's going to Hack Your Health in November, there's one immediately the next day going out. And then I have another one next February. So yeah, it's really exciting. I'm kind of like, I've gotten very passionate about this part of my journey, because I saw how amazing it was for the people who attended. They came up to me and practically in tears and said, this is the first time in my life I didn't go off the rails on vacation. And I can't tell you how much it meant to me to be around these people, and how inspiring it was to stay on track. And yeah, so this is all good. It's somehow, everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah, totally. I can't wait to go on one. My husband and I were supposed to go on this last one, but our passports didn't come, and then actually it sold out. So we are planning on going. I'm really going to try to go to one in September, but maybe that one after Hack Your Health, because I'm attending Hack Your Health as well. I know you're speaking on one of the panels, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm not speaking as of now. I'm just attending, but that would be really fun.
Yeah.
I'll definitely put the link to the Carb-Sober Cruises and really all of Dr. Lisa's resources in the show notes for sure, so that you can access them. I think an air fryer is a required kitchen tool for anybody following a carnivore diet or a low carb way of eating. The air fryer that I have in my kitchen is the Tasty. Tasty air fryer is a game changer. Not only does it go much higher in temperature than any other air fryer on the market, going up to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, but it also has a built-in temperature probe, so you can get your meat cooked to the exact temperature you want every single time. Its sleek design is beautiful on your countertop, and it's also really easy to clean. Tasty just upgraded their basket to have a ceramic coating that is, as always, BPA and PFOA free, so you can rest easy knowing that you're not putting tons of toxic chemicals into your food when you are cooking it. Right now, you can save $30 on your new Tasty air fryer by heading over to tasty.net/Jenny Mitich and using code Jenny30 at checkout. Link and code is in the show notes. I wanted to ask you about something. You are one of the experts in the space that thinks that coffee should be cut from carnivore.
I'm so
Can you tell me why? I really want to hear your thoughts on this, because some people are like, you have to cut coffee. Some people are like, you don't have to. And some people are kind of like, well, whatever. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. So many thoughts. I'm working on a big major YouTube video about it, because I'm, I like to say, I'm not dogmatic. I'm not like, judgmental on it. You love your coffee, keep drinking your coffee. But this is my thing. Educate yourself on it. There's 700 different chemical compounds. Some say 1,000, but let's go with 700 within coffee itself. Okay. Pesticide, not only, the mold and pesticide issue topical, but inherent in the seed, and coffee is a seed. It's not a bean. And usually in the seed is the most toxic, noxious substances to protect itself from, getting eaten. And there's just, I say this, I say, first of all, I love coffee. I was a coffee addict. I just love the aroma. I love the taste. I like the ritual. I like the warmth. It's just so, here I am acting all dreamy about coffee. And I'm like, yeah, what are we doing here? It's addictive. It's one of the most addictive and the most highly abused drug. I couldn't believe the other day I was at the airport in the morning catching a flight, and the Starbucks, it had to have been 50 people queued up. Like, I mean, you would have thought that they were giving it away for free. And I thought, wow, once I figured out the whole sugar and food addiction thing, and I got myself off of that through this whole carnivore way of life, I didn't want to be addicted to anything. I didn't want to feel like, just to not be tired in the morning, I had to drag myself into the kitchen and make my mug. Even though it's, the enjoyable ritual, it's still kind of weird. Or, and I laugh now because if I travel like with a girlfriend on a trip and they're a coffee drinker, I know the first thing they're doing is spying out. Is there coffee in the lobby? Where's the nearest Dunkin' Donuts? Is there a Starbucks? What am I doing here? Is there a coffee maker in the room? Those always stink. I get the whole rundown on the coffee, and I'm like, I don't want to be there with that. I want to just get up and go for a walk or start my day. So that was part of it. But it ends up where I feel like, you get the seed, it's roasted, burnt, crushed, boiling water poured on it, and you're bathing your microbiome in it day after day. Aside from the actual caffeine, which attaches to your adenosine receptors, it does have an effect on your sleep. Even because, no, it doesn't affect my sleep. It does. It's got a pretty long half-life. Even decaf coffee has caffeine in it. And one of the big things that I say, and I've been really looking into this, for the people who say, oh, I gave it up for 6 months. I didn't notice any difference, so I have my coffee. Leave me alone. I like my coffee. Well, look into the research about how it leaches minerals from your bones. And would you say 8-10 years from now, if you get a diagnosis of osteoporosis, would you have said it would have been worth it to not have the coffee? And then there's some really interesting video out there about they do studies where you get a brain MRI. They have this person who goes in the tube, come out, sit up, drinks a mug of coffee, lays down, goes back in, and the amount of oxygen decrease that happens on that brain, it's like pretty mind blowing, and it puts your body into fight or flight. And so there's something that's not positive about that. And then ultimately, what are we supposed to be hydrating and drinking? What are we supposed to, as an animal on Earth? We've got, lions, giraffes, squirrels, chipmunks out there running around. Nobody's brewing coffee and drinking it, right? It's water, right? So if you're at that point where you're really trying to get yourself to the most natural, ancestral way, then you'll really think about that. Liquid doesn't belong in my body. And there's more. I could keep going, Jenny, but I know
as long as you want. I love hearing this because I drink coffee. I drink decaf just because I get anxiety from caffeine. So I cut the caffeine a decade ago. And I do love coffee. I just drink it black. And I have been curious to do like a 1 month to 3 month experiment where I don't drink it, but I'm going to tell you, it's hard. I did it for a week and I'm like, man, I really want my coffee. I just have an espresso and I'm like, I just love the foam and I'm so good. So I love hearing your thoughts on it because you really feel strongly about this.
Well, yeah. And it's only for the matter of, I just want people to really become educated and make an educated choice, an educated decision, not the education that you get from other coffee addicts who are making videos saying, 2 to 3 cups is healthy. It'll decrease your blood pressure. It will do, you can cherry pick. The coffee lobby industry is really good about funding studies and only putting out something where they manipulate the data and cherry pick it, because this is a huge, huge multi-billion, if not trillion-dollar industry. I don't even know at this point. It's like crazy. There's a coffee shop on every corner, multiple, right? And so I just say, be smart, wisen up to that. I mean, they want you in your ritual. They want you addicted to it. And, I've talked about there's, little alternatives. You get your mug, you can do bone broth and even whisk butter in it, or just take hot water with like a tablespoon of butter and whisk that up, and then pour in a raw egg yolk. And even if you sprinkle in a little cinnamon, froth that up. It's delicious. It's warm. It's a little foamy. It gives you that kind of ritual thing, but it's healthy. It's butter and egg yolk. Okay. So, there are alternatives. I ended up turning to, and it's the most strange thing because I never in a million years thought I would ever say this, because people are like, oh, try the silver tea. It's hot water, right? Like very, very, very hot water, because I like my coffee hot. I like my tea hot. I like my water hot, right? So it's really hot. I have a little tiny wedge of lemon. I sip it. It's like herbal tea. It's so good. And I feel so good that I'm putting water in there and not coffee. Tea is worse than coffee. People say, well, I just have my tea. Tea leaves preferentially absorb fluoride out of soil. And there's a whole thing with the tea bags. And, you say, well, I use loose leaf in the, okay, there's still plants. And again, like somebody would say, just go away. I like my morning thing. I like my tea. I like my coffee, and I'm fine with it. I just feel like, let me kind of wave my flag here and just say, don't, just like, and here's the thing, like, people are not believing when they hear over and over, oh, you need a statin. Your LDL's over 1, whatever. You got to go on a statin. You got to be on a statin. Well, we don't believe that stuff. Oh, you got to put sunscreen on. Make sure you slather it on, right? Go away with that, right? But people are not go away with the coffee's healthy thing. They just say, oh, okay. Okay, dark chocolate's healthy too, and red wine, right? So let's just dig in, right? Let's think about who's funding these cherry-picked studies and the ulterior motive. So I'll get off my soapbox with that. But oh, and wait, Jenny, this just so that everybody knows, like, I am fully in full disclosure. I've often said this, where if I'm at a restaurant, because I do love coffee, I'm at a restaurant and I've got like 3 couples, dining together, a big round table, and it's dessert time and everybody's passing around the dessert. Guess who just gets herself a decaf cappuccino? Okay. I'll just put it out there, but I don't drink it every day. And guess what else? Like my white teeth, there's no red wine and there's no coffee there. I like my white teeth. And so there's, I guess I can just, I try to really make my decision based on a lot of information I've taken in. And I've just made that decision for myself. And I do get asked it a lot, like you're asking here. And I know it's so not popular. And I'll even have people, I go live every Sunday morning. I call it Carb-Sober Sunday. So 9 a.m. Eastern every Sunday morning, I'll either do a Q&A or I might interview somebody. But I have this really cool, like, groupies of people in my chat. And I had Dr. Kiltz on last Sunday, and he has given up the bean. We call it giving up the bean. Are you on the bean or off the bean? He's off it now a couple years, and it like people are starting to write in the chat like, I don't care what you say, I'm not giving up my coffee. And I'm like, great, that's okay. And everybody's free to make their own decision, but like, like I said, it's just make it an educated one. Here's the problem. People don't want to dig in to find the real truth, like, because they're like, I don't want to find out that I need to give it up. Okay. So that's why I sometimes feel like it's good for me to be a little outspoken, just to send a little jab in there. Like, come on, guys, wake up.
Well, for sure. I appreciate it. I mean, I drink my coffee. It's something, though, that I think about at the Symposium for Metabolic Health in Boca in January. There was a speaker that was talking about just things that you can eliminate to eliminate toxin loads and things like that. And she was talking about how Starbucks coffee is some of the most pesticide-ridden coffee that exists. And that I used to drink a decaf Americano, iced decaf Americano every day, sometimes twice a day. And I'm maybe once every 2 weeks now since then.
Right. And when you really think about it, there's lots of little shorts and reels on it on social media, but those paper cups are plastic. You're putting a hot liquid. It's plastic lined because, come on, guys, paper doesn't hold liquid. It's fully plastic. So there's something to be said for, that's really not
for sure
a good thing.
Well, and then like the Keurig pods are plastic. The Nespresso pods are aluminum, and some people will say that the aluminum could leach into the So there's like so many things to think about. I have not yet gotten to the point where I've said, no, I had 3 cups of coffee today, decaf coffee. But I love hearing your thoughts on it because I know you've researched it so much. So I think it's important for people to think about for sure. And also do carnivore. If, whoever's watching this right now, don't feel like we're trying to tell you have to cut everything. If you drink coffee, whatever, she drinks it once in a blue moon. I drink it every day.
I drank decaf for the first 4 years of my carnivore journey. And, it's all a process, and just take in the information, and, we can't do everything at once. It's like peeling back an onion, one thing at a time.
Right. You don't want to get super overwhelmed with all of the changes. Change the biggest thing first, which is the food. And then once you're comfortable with that, you can think about the next change. But yeah, I've been on carnivore for over 2 years. You've been over 16. So, we're at different levels in our journeys.
Yes.
Before we move on to my rapid fire carnivore questions that I ask all of the carnivores that I interview, I wanted to get your opinion on, besides we've talked about red light, we've talked about just light in general, getting that morning sunlight in general, and nutrition. What other lifestyle factors do you think are like most important for people to dial in besides those? Do you have any other thoughts?
Yeah, when I really think about I'm trying to come up with a new YouTube video where I'm going to do the pillars of health in my now 60 years of experience and being through this. Like, there's certain things that are really important. The weightlifting, you absolutely, without a doubt, it's only 30 minutes twice a week. If you look into the slow burn method, and I have a couple videos on my YouTube channel about it, it is so effective. And it's just one set to muscular failure, moving it really slowly. There's no injury. And it's so simple. It's so critically important because without it, our muscles are just deteriorating. So we have to just keep strengthening them. So that's one thing that, we could go into all sorts of different aspects of this. And I'm going to tell you, I am not going down the rabbit hole on the cold plunge right now. I'm not convinced that it's something that's necessary, that I need to do, that I want to do. I have the Atlantic Ocean as my front yard here. That's probably, I don't know, it's probably in the 50s right now. But I'm not jumping in. So I'll put that out there as an aside, because I know there's the whole biohacking thing is exploding. It's like, well, what are we doing? So I will say, like I mentioned earlier, really important, I believe, is the red light and the red light therapy, because I don't believe any of us spend enough time in the early morning sun to get the amount of beneficial red light that we need. And then I'm going to say, I do think there's definite benefit to sauna. So I just have like a portable sauna unit. It's kind of it's not the lay down blanket one, but it's a sit in and then you zip it up and it really heats up fast. And it's got far infrared also in there. And it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, you know what? I think, 3-4 times a week, it's a good thing to shake things up a little, challenge your body and put a little stressor on it. So that's another thing. And then, of course, I'm all about getting rid of the fragrances, the toxic makeup. I know that's a tough one too. But there's it's one of those things where you could kind of just keep going. And ultimately, I guess we should just be naked with a loincloth hanging out in front of the cave and we'd all be good, right? Because of course the clothes, I told you, that drives me crazy. I've got my little Lululemon, stretchy things, all my gym stuff. And I'm like, oh, now, I mean, there are companies that make those stretchy yoga pants in merino wool and cotton. They cost they're a lot. And I feel like, so that's another step that I'm not there quite yet. I'm starting to, though. I'm in the process of getting rid of all my underwear and replacing that. And so I figured, let me start with what's really close to me, and then I'll work my way out and replace clothes. This top's 100% cotton. Now, when I shop and I try to make that effort, but I gotta say, I love the stretchy stuff so much that I am having a hard time with that. So, but yeah, there's so many different things. But really the gist of the main things to go after are the food, the light environment, blocking the artificial light, the weight-bearing exercise, and then aside from, the studies that show walking 8,000 steps a day really helps longevity-wise, and some say 10,000 steps a day. But now, we just briefly mentioned before that Japanese interval walking, 30 minutes is equivalent in health benefits as the 10,000 steps. So I thought that was pretty intriguing. That's why I want to make a video about that, because there's actual studies, and you do 3 minutes of just a comfortable, casual pace, and then 3 minutes booking it, just almost like to getting out of breath, walking super fast. And then the next 3 minutes, back to your casual, next 3 minutes, and you do 6 cycles of that and you're done. So what I did, because I go a little in depth in these things, I went onto Spotify and I typed in 3-minute songs, and there's a whole playlist of 3-minute songs. So now I just put that playlist on, and when each song switches, I switch my speed up, and it's kind of fun and interesting and different. And then I also have a rebounder. I think there's benefit to that. I have not gotten into the vibration plate yet. I mean, we could just keep going on and, keep talking about all this stuff. But yeah, it's exciting to really be in this space where everything that we're really trying to concentrate on here is what is going to really bring me to optimal health and have a really good quality of life going forward. Nobody wants to deteriorate. Nobody wants to have a walker or lose their memory. And we could go into a whole other tangent on that, of what I've been listening to and discovering about coconut oil and MCT oil, and that it's extremely beneficial as far as how it crosses the blood-brain barrier, and it benefits the dementia for people who already have it, really greatly improving it. There's works of Dr. Mary Newport, I think her name is. She's got a lot of videos out on YouTube. She's been interviewed. And it really is making an impact on me to say, you know what? I know it's not carnivore, but a tablespoon of coconut oil a day whisked into my little morning coffee replacement beverage. Yeah, it's just, I say, I say people end up cross addicting, right? I got off of sugar and carbs, and then some people overdo it on, doing triathlons. They get into an exercise addiction, or, shopping, or they binge watch episodes on Netflix. But I like to say I've got an epiphany addiction. I just am so hungry for the truth, because I feel like the wool's been pulled over our eyes for so long. They don't want us to understand what we really should be figuring out. And, we won't even get into the other aspects of that, too political and too controversial, tin hatish. But, it's really it's really exciting though to start learning and understanding what is going to really lead us to optimal health.
For sure. Well, the proof is in the pudding. You're 60 years old. You're gorgeous. Dr. Lisa has abs. Like what? So, yeah. I mean, like everything that you've been doing for the past 16 years, it shows. So keep doing what you're doing. I love that you put out all this amazing content and share everything that you're learning with us. I also have a passion for learning and I go down rabbit holes too. So I really appreciate that about you. Yeah. So I want to finish up with some carnivore rapid fire questions. I always ask my carnivores these questions. So, first thing that comes to your mind, and some of them are carnivore related, some aren't. So you just go with what you feel.
Okay.
Okay. So the first question is, what is your number one tip for a new carnivore?
Wow. Don't overthink it. Don't think it has to be perfect. Don't think that you're doing it wrong. Just start and then go along, and then you'll be able to tweak it along the way down the road. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink numbers. Don't overthink blood work. Just get your brain wrapped around the fact that you're eating healthy, nutrient-dense food and go with it.
Great. What is your favorite carnivore food?
I'm just going to outright just say beef, like pretty much any beef, flank and ribs, I love ground beef. Like, I mean, it seems kind of crazy. And people say, oh, don't you get bored? I'm never bored. Boring is sitting in the waiting room of a doctor's office. I never have to do that. Yeah. And actually, if I can just throw in a real quick, that now that I mentioned that doctor's office thing, I stopped with health insurance because it drove me crazy to be in the matrix of insurance. And I was paying as a 59, 58-year-old at the time, like close to $700 and then over $700 a month and not ever, fortunately, having to go to the doctor, right? That was the bottom of the barrel garbage insurance plan. And now I do what's called crowd health. It's $50 or $55 a month. And then you only contribute a certain amount over that each month to pay for somebody else's health issues. And it's just wonderful. So I'll give you the link for that if anybody's interested, because it's amazing. I interviewed the CEO of that company. It's just, they even have Carnivore Crowd, where if you're healthy metabolically, low, like you're fasting insulin or your DEXA scan, you're in a category of people that are healthy. So you pay out even less. And I never pay more than like $300 a month.
That's great. Yeah, no, I mean, we pay as a family $2,400 a month for health insurance.
Yeah.
Our health insurance is, nationwide because we travel so much. But the fact that we have to pay that much money and we're healthy is ridiculous. So I feel you on that for sure.
It's a big scam. Yeah.
It is. Okay. If you were stuck on a desert island, what 3 things would you bring?
Oh my gosh. I guess one of them would have to be a chicken so I could get some eggs. Another one, I don't know. I guess I'd have to have some cows. How am I going to eat? So, I mean, I'm assuming you're talking about survival here, or else I could say, I guess it would have to be, and a fishing pole so I could catch fish, right? Like, it's all about survival. And I say, it's like, it would be so great if the zombie apocalypse happens, if all of us in this sort of space got together and made just like a whole pod community, and we'd be able to survive.
Yeah, like a carnivore commune.
Yeah,
that'd be so much fun.
Exactly.
I have this dream of like living in a yurt in the woods and like having all my own, animals and raising my own, plants and things like that. I always find that very fascinating. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah, that's the epitome of homesteading, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. What is the most common mistake that new carnivores make?
Overthinking and taking to heart conflicting information. That's really, that derails people. And let me throw in another one here is socially caring what other people think. You have to be comfortable with being different, or else you'll never make it in this. Never. Because you're just going to have such opposing views from friends and families and coworkers, and the social situations will derail you. So yeah, don't overthink it, and don't just remember, you don't owe anybody an explanation.
Right. Totally true. I've encountered a weight loss stall on carnivore. What would be your advice to get the scale moving again?
Boy, Jenny, that's such a tough one because, we've got a lot of confounding issues, menopause, for somebody like me and many who end up stalling or plateauing. I'm going to say, I know it's not popular, but calories do matter. You can't eat a stick of butter every day when you're 60 years old. I'm going to tell you that. And I'm going to tell you also that you can gain weight on carnivore. You eat enough stick of butter and pork bellies and carnivore bars and you name it. There's a lot of delicious stuff out there, especially when you get into recipes. It's really tough. So what I say to that, to your original question there, is try the lion diet. Get yourself down to beef and lamb, salt and water for a month, and learn what you experience from it, and then take it from there. And so my challenge this month with my group, we're doing Lion Diet Challenge, and I've committed to doing my 30-minute daily Japanese interval walking, and committing totally to, not just ruminant meat, salt and water. And it's in a remarkable way. It really gets rid of the noise. And I can tell you, like, when I was back in the mode of making chaffles, and I mean, you've got kids, and I know, like, cause my cousin came and visited with her 10-year-old triplet boys, and we were making all sorts of, carnivore pizzas and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh boy, that's a lot of food noise for this girl. That's not good for my waistline. So yeah, to get rid of a stall, it's a hard nut to swallow, but it really, for most, comes down to really simplifying. And you already say, God, we're already so, limited in what we're doing here. What are we really talking about? And I'm like, well, try Lion and tell me what you think. Come back in 30 days.
Yeah. All right. So knowing what you know now, what would you do differently if you were starting carnivore today?
Wow. If I were starting carnivore today, I'm hesitating in my answer because my knee-jerk reaction is to say no dairy from day one. Just cut out. There's no cheese, no heavy cream, no unflavored yogurt. No, yeah, because that can get you into trouble. Because then next thing you know, you're mixing in the protein, salted caramel powder, and you're this and you're that, and it doesn't lead to anywhere good. But why I've hesitated, and I'm going to back up, is honestly, at the very beginning for me, I don't think I ever would have been able to transition into this had I not been able to rely on cheese as like a crutch. So I know that was an answer, not an answer, but that's it.
No, I think that's good. I agree with you on that. I started without dairy, and then I incorporated it again, and I didn't lose as much weight, and then I took it out again. And now I can't do dairy at all because of my Hashimoto's. It really flares me up.
Yeah,
so,
that's what I say to people. Dairy is not ideal for anybody with any autoimmune issue, skin issue, dry eye, thyroid issue. It's really important to understand that joint issue, arthritic issue, all a no-go on dairy. And ultimately, I'll give this little extra ditty on my feelings on dairy, because man, do I have a love-hate relationship. It's addictive. It's got casomorphines, opioids. It's not good for people who tend to not have sober behavior with certain foods. Okay. But think about it. It's the dairy of an adult mama animal is totally intended to fatten their baby animal. And also, get their baby animal addicted to it to keep the animal wanting the milk and to thrive. Okay. So the combination of that, it's got to make you really start thinking like, yeah, probably not a good idea.
All right, final question. If you were able to go back and give one piece of advice to your 20-year-old self, what would that be?
20-year-old self, hang in there. You're going to find out the answer and it's all going to be okay. So just calm down. Just like, yeah, when I think back to when I was 20, I was in college in the thick of my disordered eating. And yeah, of course, and I was a perfectionist. So I'm excelling at school. I'm trying to get into med school and all these things. And I guess really just that the answer is there and you will find it.
I love that. Well, Dr. Lisa, this was awesome. I love talking with you. We'll definitely have to do this again because we didn't even touch on fasting, water, dry, sardine, all that.
Oh my gosh, Jenny. Well, you're going to come on my channel again too. And yeah, we have a lot to talk about.
Always have a lot to talk about. So thank you so much again for joining me today.
Thank you. I loved it. Thanks so much.
I travel often for both work and play, and I'm always looking for carnivore foods that I can take along. That is why I love the Carnivore Bar. Carnivore Bar is a pemmican that's made out of grass-fed, grass-finished beef and tallow, Redmond real salt, and if you're doing one of their honey-flavored ones, some raw honey. These bars are super shelf-stable, and they'll stay good for up to 25 years, although for me, I can't keep a six-pack longer than a few weeks. Each bar has 35 grams of fat, 20 grams of protein, and if you're doing one of the honey flavored bars, 7 grams of carbohydrates. Whenever I fly, I throw a few of these in my backpack so that I can have one on the plane if hunger strikes, or they can be used as a single meal replacement bar. Save up to 20% on your next Carnivore Bar order by heading over to the link in the show notes and using code Jenny Mitich to get 10% off, and then stack my code with their subscription code to save 20% on your order. Of course, if you order more bars, you're going to save more money. I recommend getting the 24-pack, and my favorite carnivore bar is the honey salted. Head to the link in the show notes and use my code Jenny Mitich to get some savings today.